So, you know,
That's not true, Frank. What happened was when hell blasted me off, I went flying by. I got there just before you did, actually. I mean, I never did tell you that until today. But unfortunately, by then I was unconscious. I didn't know I had gone by.
But anyway, we're both here at the Spacefest convention here, enjoying ourselves, and we're the only phony astronauts. Down the hall in every direction are the real ones.
Yeah, it's a little intimidating.
The only nice thing about having been in 2001 is that a few of the astronauts, well, one in particular that I know, actually told us that it was having seen 2001 that resulted in him being, I'm serious, being an astronaut. So
also, we're the only people in the building that get residuals.
Sorry?
That get residuals.
We're the only ones that get residuals.
They don't get that from NASA. Now, listen, to what extent did this film, obviously it covered the careers, if you will, of a lot of people. I know a lot of people went into science because of this film by Kubrick. What about you guys? I mean, how did it affect you?
It was fine for us. I mean, I ended up getting several movies after just because I was in this. So, I mean, how could it hurt to be in maybe the best sci-fi movie, probably the best sci-fi movie ever made, or one of the best movies ever made.
And also, it's like a good meal. It keeps coming up. It's like, I mean, here we are 41 years later after the original release, which was 1968, and we do 3 or 4 of these kinds of events a year, and people keep asking us back. And the most exciting thing of all is the fact that young people in their early 20s, even earlier, who weren't even born in 2001, come by and ask for our autograph. They know this film, they've seen it, and it kind of is a hell of a tribute, not so much to us, but to Stanley Kubrick's genius that he created this film that is still considered the science fiction film of all time, and to have been a part of that is a real honor.
I have one regret, actually. I must tell you what it is. Nobody has ever really asked me about this. I'm a little pissed that I lost the chess match to Hal. I have over the years stayed a little angry about that. But all the residuals and the fees for autograph shows and all sort of made up for it.
What was it like working with Kubrick? Was he an easy director to work for or not?
The best.
The best. You know, it's almost, I say this so often, it's become a cliche for me, but it doesn't get better.
Yeah,
it does not get better.
Stanley was a very anal type, you know. I mean, he was a detail man, but there's nothing wrong with that. I'm a bit of an architect type, so I thought it was great.
You knew that you were in the presence of genius. There's no question about that. I mean, I was a huge Kubrick fan already by that time because he was a world-class director. He had done Spartacus, Dr. Strangelove, Lolita, perhaps the greatest Andrew Moore film ever made, The Paths of Glory with Kirk Douglas. I mean, he was a man to contend with it already by that time.
One final question, gentlemen. Do you understand what it all meant there at the end of that film?
I'm asked that constantly, and you know, it was never made to be fact. It's science fiction roots. I mean, it's a movie, but so many people read so many things into it. And one of the premieres, I think, in Hollywood, some nun ran up to us and said, "It's the most godlike thing I've ever seen," and none of us went to church.
Well, like all great art, you know, you can go in front of a famous Picasso painting, and depending on the individual staring at that painting, you're going to get a different interpretation. Now, Picasso isn't around anymore to answer the question, what does it mean? You know what? It kind of doesn't matter because great art is so filled with metaphor, and each person brings their own metaphor to the experience, and I think that's really particularly true in 2001.
I'm not going to say anything about the ending, that's for you to interpret yourself, but what do you think about Ishmael living because of Queequeg's coffin floating to the surface? I mean, I've heard 9,000 versions of that, and I've heard 10,000 versions in 2001. I mean, give me a break.
Keir Dullea and Gary Lockwood, thanks.
A pleasure.
Thank you.
Is there a particular line in that film that sticks in your mind after all these years?
Well, it sticks in my mind because it was gobbledygook at the time, and therefore I memorized it like a foreign language. It went something like this. Mission Control, this is X-Ray Delta 1. At 1 niner in At 1920 onboard full prediction center, and our 9000 computer showed Alpha Echo 35 unit is possible failure within 48 hours. Request check your in-ship system simulator. Also confirm your approval our plan to go EVA and replace Alpha Echo 35 unit prior to failure. Mission control is X-ray Delta 1, tran. Mission concluded.
Now that's a line to remember.
That's absolutely a line to remember.